All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the show. Today we are at the seashore with Gerrie Williams, aka my mom. And though mom is not going to be here with me in physical form, wanted to do this episode to really highlight the life that my mom lived. So many people know the relationship that I had with my mom, the bond that we shared. I was truly blessed and honored to be her oldest son, and I wanted to share some of the incredibleness that is her life story that I think can really resonate with a lot of people and help a lot of people. Because there's just some crazy stuff a lot of people may not know about my mom, outside of the fact that she was 5'2", 90 pounds, dripping wet on a good day. So before I get into all that, today's show is brought to you by the EFA Movement Empowered Fathers in Action. Our nonprofit is dedicated to solution driven practices to empower more fruitful communities and corporations with an obvious emphasis on young men, fathers, and sons. You can visit efamovement.org to learn more about the work that we do. So, without further ado, firstly, I just want to thank everybody that had reached out to me, that I was around in Pennsylvania as well, my family, my friends, my business partner, and big brother, Chris Salem. The outpouring of support was tremendous, and really don't think I could have gotten through everything the way that we did without all of that support. So, I do greatly appreciate it, and I know that mom greatly appreciates it as well. So without further ado, we're going to treat this like a normal interview. I'm not going to be weird and talk like I'm my mom. That would just be freaky and crazy, and she'd probably slap the living hell out of me if I tried to play that card. So we're going to tell you a little bit about her life, what brought her to where she was in her last moments, and some of the valuable lessons that she taught me. Whether she taught my brothers or not, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm assuming they got some of the insight that I got as well, and share a little bit about what she thought about my life and the impact that she had on my career with the seashore, and what she thought about EFA, and really just make this more of a celebratory thing. So and my mom was one of 9 children. Grew up in Northeast Philadelphia in Olney off of Linton Street. And when my mom was 12, she was kind of in the middle of the 9. When my mom was 12, her mom passed away. And, you think about 9 children losing their mother, and what my aunts and my uncles and my mom had to do. Pop never remarried, really raised the kids on his own with the help of family, and each of the siblings in their own way did something to contribute to the house. So really from the age of 12 through her entire life, with such tremendous loss, my mom lived a life of selfless service, first to her siblings, then to my dad, and then, of course, I came into the picture, and my 3 younger brothers came into the picture, and mom lived a life to take care of us. One of the things that I was always fascinated by with my mom was when I was probably 6 or 7, my younger brother, Michael, was coming into the picture, or was, in the picture, very young, obviously a baby. My mom and dad had to sit down and have a conversation about, what they were going to do with, the family size was increasing, and they both had careers, what they were going to do. And I remember when I was a kid, even though I was young, going to mom's office with her. Mom had a wonderful career, no college degree. Same thing with my dad. Neither one of them went to college. They went out and worked. Mom had a phenomenal career and a true path in front of her, just like my dad did. But they made the decision together as a couple for mom to stop working and focus on raising our family. And though it's always sold like an easy decision, I know for my mom, that might not have been the easiest decision to make, but that's what she did. And my mom was just flat out brilliant. My mom was one of the smartest people I've ever met. Uncanny with math. A true regret she had was not going to college for math, but I assure you that my mom did not need to go to college for math. She was just naturally gifted, fascinated by mathematics, which then transcended into things as simple as crossword puzzles. She was a master of crossword puzzles. That woman's brain, for someone so tiny, had so much knowledge in it. It was almost insulting to the rest of humanity how intelligent someone that tiny could be. I mean, she was just flat out brilliant, and she knew it. And she let everybody else know that she knew it as well, but not in an arrogant way whatsoever. But she everything my mom did. You think about losing a parent at the age of 12, what that could do to your mental state, what that could do to your faith. It could really demoralize you. And so many people nowadays, with the soft society that we live in, would allow that to be an excuse to crumble and fall and give up. And that's not what my mother did. My mom, even though her faith was challenged at a young age, even though she obviously had questions like any normal human being would, being raised Catholic, mom took all of that pain that she felt internally and turned it into something positive through other people. So even though she may not have ever gotten the answers that she wanted, she ascertained that every single person that she touched had the utmost hope, the utmost faith, the utmost ambition to succeed. And from the time I was a child, my brothers as well, mom volunteered at our schools. She volunteered in the lunchroom for me at St. Agnes Sacred Heart. She volunteered and did work with the elementary school that all three of my younger brothers attended. And, mom was just that person that you could always rely on. She was there. And through everything that she did, no matter what, at the house, our house was spotless. It was always clean. It was always organized. There was always food on the table. Laundry was always done. And people take a lot of that stuff for granted. I know my brothers and I, it was just kind of like we expected it because she did so well with it. You just expected the house to run. And as I left the house, my brother Mike left the house. My other brothers, they did their thing. Mom still ran the house the same way. It was always spotless. There was always food on the table. She was still brown bagging lunches for my brothers in their older ages. And I just was always fascinated that, all she cared about was everybody else. And I think that's so powerful that you don't have a mom in your life to aspire to anymore. And yet she set the bar and the example for what being a mom was all about. And my life was better because of her. My life was phenomenal. My brother's lives, we never wanted for anything. And mom never asked for anything in return. Ironically, my business partner, Chris Salem, one of the greatest things I've ever heard is to give without expectation and receive without resistance. Mom was great at giving. She wasn't exactly phenomenal with receiving. She didn't want anything. She just wanted to make you feel better and give to you. And that is something that carried with me my entire life. And I think that's something that a lot of people should take and sit down and think about. How bad could your life really be? How much loss could you really have to use as an excuse to not do something to be of service to other people? Now, as I got older, my mom was not shy. If I made mistakes, mom let me know that I was making a mistake and would offer insight and guidance in her charming way. For those of you that don't get my humor, the charming is in quotes because I have the same charm as she does. Very direct, very blunt. You never wondered what my mother was thinking or feeling. And I admired that about mom. And it's part of her that I took and I carry the same way. You're never really uncertain what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling. I'm pretty direct about it. And if you liked mom, she appreciated that. If you loved mom, she appreciated that. If you didn't like her, she didn't really care. She focused on doing what she felt was right. And that's something every human being right now should be emulating. is regardless of what outside forces or outside circumstance or anybody else feels about you, to barrel through and be the greatest version of yourself, because you have that choice and you have that opportunity. Mom made that choice for her entire existence on this planet, and I envy that. I will always envy that for my entire existence until I meet her again. Now, in my life and my career, I remember over a decade ago when I told her I had this crazy idea called the Seashore Lifestyle. And it wasn't the lifestyle; it was just the seashore at the time, because it was really in business that I created that, originally, that platform. But I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I said, if I'm nuts, tell me. If I'm not nuts, tell me. What do you think? And I ran it by her, and she said, it sounds great. Of course, you always think outside the box. Of course, you're going to find a way to bring your fascination with the beach and the shore into, a platform to help your business and to help your teams. Let me know how it goes. So a couple years go by, and I called her from Georgia and said, well, the seashore is great. Business is awesome. Life sucks. Everything's falling apart. We're about to lose everything. Our house, our car, our dog. It's horrendous. Maybe this wasn't the brightest idea. And I remember my mom telling me that I always had a knack for figuring things out. I was a master troubleshooter. If there's a problem, I could find a solution because I saw things differently than other people. So did my mom. So when the seashore incorporated compassion and consistency and really became the lifestyle concept that everybody now knows it as, mom was like my biggest supporter with it and really helped me fine tune it. A lot of the lingo, the verbiage, the groundwork and the foundation that the seashore lifestyle is, my mom helped me with. And I asked her for her help, one, as my mom, but two, as someone who I respected in business, who understood math, who understood finance, who understood how I saw the world and how the world actually operated. And she was an avid supporter of it. Told me I was nuts for wanting to save the world, but that the world didn't deserve that. But that's just what I was put on the planet to do. And so time went on. And when she met my wife, before Brian was my wife, I remember the first time my mom met her. She pulled me into our garage at the house up in Pennsylvania, and I said, what do you think? And she said, what do you think? I said, I really love her. Like, I've never really met somebody like her. She's different than what I'm used to. I think I'm different than what she's used to. Her family hates me, so that's new for me. But my mom looked at me straight in my face without saying another word and said, that's the woman you're going to spend the rest of your life with. I know it. And I think you do too. And she was right. Mom always was right. At our wedding, my mom and I danced to a Jack Johnson song, "Go On," which was kind of a homage to my late Uncle Bill, her one of her older brothers. And that dance, I remember telling her I didn't think I was going to get to this point with the amount of screw ups that I've made in my life. The poor decisions I'd made. The seashore wasn't even really anything at that point, but she just looked around and she saw Brian sitting at the table that we were at and asked if I remembered what we talked about. And I said, yeah. She said, well, I was right. And I said, I know, I blame you for all of this. And we laughed and we had a great time. One of the pictures that people have seen on social media is just so indicative of my mother and I, with our tongues sticking out, goofing off with the photographer who wanted a serious photo. That's what my mom took as serious. And without hesitation, we did the same thing, which we both got a kick out of. But, she was my wife's biggest fan. My mom and my dad taught my wife and I so much, as did Brian's parents, about sticking together and bringing balance to your marriage and living an interdependent, relationship, and really finding that true camaraderie. And though my mom was never able to have girls, Brian was that daughter that she never got to have, and she always looked at my wife in that manner, and I always appreciated that because my mom didn't owe Brian anything, and Brian didn't owe my mom anything, and the relationship that they had, which I'll tell you how that came full circle shortly, was just magical. Mom really had a great judge of character and situations and circumstance, and something that has helped me in my life, in my career. Now, a couple years ago, I met Chris Salem. A couple years ago, it's been a very long time. It's been many years. It's been about 7 years now since I've known Chris, and again, I remember telling mom about him. And, one of my mom's concerns for me throughout my entire life was that I was going to get into the red convertible with the guy that had the watermelon lollipop, because I just believed in the good in everybody. And I had been shafted a lot of times, made a lot of poor decisions, allowed people to put me in positions that I shouldn't have been in. And I met Chris and told her about Chris. And she said, something just in your tone and it just sounds different. This sounds like something that you should pursue. This sounds like a guy that could be good for you. And not too long after that, Chris, EFA came into the picture, and I asked her about EFA. I said, I get it with the CSure Lifestyle. That made sense, but I'm genuinely curious. I'm not a dad, and, I have an opportunity to run a nonprofit organization that's really driven for, the father-son bond building process, but obviously we'll expand it, but that's really going to be our foundation. What do you think about that? Like, what do you think? Do you think I should run with this? And I remember her saying, "Are you nuts?" She didn't put it that politely, by the way. I'm editing this for family-friendly version. She asked me if I was nuts. And I said, well, that's why I'm talking to you. She said, no. Are you nuts? Of course that's something you should do. I said, but I'm not a dad. I said, I have a dad. I have a great relationship with dad, but, I'm not a dad. I didn't have like a rough childhood. Like she said, exactly. It's exactly why you should be doing this. You can take emotion out of the equation. What do you always tell people? There's no foundation in what, Davey? Emotion. What's emotion? It's like building a house on quicksand. So she loved to throw my own lingo back in my face to prove that she was right, but to also prove to me that I was right. So I took on the role with EFA. The rest is history. Everybody knows where we are now. And mom still to, her dying day was an avid supporter of Chris's. She admired everything that Chris did and stood for the relationship that I had with him. And she was right. He's not only a wonderful business partner, he's not only been a wonderful mentor to me. I'm not only just proud to be his protege, but he's really a brother who has embraced me and helped me understand myself in ways that I thought I already did. And mom was always grateful for that relationship that I had with him and was an avid supporter of it. And a couple years back, actually I think it was right around the time that my grandfather passed. So we're going back years. I went to Sea Isle City. I showed Brian Sea Isle City. I showed my wife the inspiration that the seashore really was, what inspired me. And I remember my wife telling me in Sea Isle City that as she was walking behind me, I was sitting on the railing, and she said, I've never seen you so you. This is you. Everything here is you. And not, the shorts, but the ambiance, the simplicity, the energy at the shore. It was me, and it was mom. And I remember telling mom about that. And as years passed, mom and I had a conversation, and I said, I never really thought when I was a kid that this is what I would be doing. I didn't really think that being a motivational speaker and, a life coach and a lifestyle strategist to help people align their lives and their businesses, to simplify their process, to amplify results. Like, I didn't think that's what I would be doing. I didn't know, but as a kid, what I wanted to be was a lifeguard. And again, she thought I was nuts. but she supported it. And she said, well, isn't that kind of ironic? Isn't that kind of what you do? And I thought, son of a bitch, that is exactly what I do. And she said, it's almost like you're a lifestyle lifeguard. And it was like a mic drop moment from the little midget that was my mom. Holy crap. The nickname was inspired. The Lifestyle Lifeguard, living the seashore lifestyle. And that's where that nickname really stemmed from. And it really gave me an appreciation. She helped me understand in her own way that what I'm doing with my life and my career is exactly what I was put on this planet to do. I never looked small. I never thought small. I always thought bigger. I always saw a bigger picture. And I always lived my life one wave at a time. And mom did too, but she was very pragmatic about it. So I always tell people I don't fly by the seat of my pants. I plan to fly by the seat of my pants. My mom was definitely the planner. I was definitely the seat flyer in that relationship. But her insight and her pointing out to me that everything that I had done in my life, all of my successes, all of my failures, had led me to be exactly where I was supposed to be in my tower. And now today, as sad as the situation was, she's right with me in my lifeguard tower. And I couldn't think of a better angel to have at my side in my tower with me, to continue to guide me, to continue to help make sure that I'm molding my path through service to others and living a life of selfless service and love to other people. I believe that even if there's no hope in my situation or my life at times, everybody deserves the hope that my mom gave to others. And, you know, when she got her diagnosis with the lung cancer, yeah, there was optimism, but there was also realism. And, you know, we had a very transparent, down to earth conversation about if things didn't work out, what she was expecting of me to do. And she reverted back to, that's what you do. You're the lifestyle lifeguard. And if this moment comes, whenever it is, yes, it's going to suck. It's going to suck for you. It's going to suck for your dad and your brothers and our family and everybody. But I need you to be what you're here to be. I need you to be that. And as time went on and you know, it spread to her brain, you know, the writing started to kind of become more prevalent on the wall. And the greatest gift that my mom ever gave to me was the last gift she ever gave to me. And she waited for me to get to the hospital so that we could have some time together. And I may get a little choked up at this part, and I do apologize. But in that moment of conversation, I could see in her eyes, with a tear in her eye, that my mom and I both knew. And I just held her hand and we talked. We BS'd. We just had a normal conversation as if nothing was wrong. I didn't see a woman in pain. I didn't see a woman struggling. I didn't see what was physically in front of me. All I saw was that tan, blonde bombshell of a woman that raised me to be strong, to be what I'm supposed to be hope for other people when they lose it, to be exactly what she was since the time that she was 12 years old. And the last thing that my mother and I said to each other was that we loved one another. And that was indicative of everything with my mom and I. Through every agreement and disagreement, we loved each other. And that's how we always finished it. And to know that in that moment gave me the strength to do what I felt I needed to do to help my dad and my brothers. And we pulled together as a family. And, you know, while we were in Pennsylvania, unfortunately, Brian got COVID first. I still am dealing with some of the symptoms, but we weren't going to be able to be at my mom's service. And that crushed us. That crushed us. But as I sat with my dad and we were talking about the situation and what we needed to do, I realized that I did exactly what my mom expected me to do. I did exactly what my mom expected me to do. And the entire situation played out exactly the way that my mom said it was going to. And I was grateful for that. And the truest form of closure that my mom could give to my wife and I, my mom admired my wife beyond words. My mom respected my wife. My mom just adored my wife. As my dad does, my brothers and I always joke, my wife could take a crap on the hood of my dad's car and let it dry in the sun, and he'll still love her and hug her and kiss her and tell her she's the greatest thing since sliced bread and peanut butter. If I did that, I'd be buried in the backyard somewhere. But my mom, but she knew, in a sense, before this all happened, that we may lack closure. In moments like this, you never really get closure. In death, there's no closure, because the living are left while the deceased aren't, and there's never really closure. But my mom pulled one last miracle and had told my father to make sure that my wife got her diamond engagement ring. And I gave that to Brian, and it fit. And there's no way it should have, because my mom was so tiny and so frail. The ring fit perfectly, as if mom was letting us both know that it's okay. She's always going to be with us, and to continue to shine the way that she wanted us both to shine. She was so proud of everything that my wife accomplished with her career. And there were so many similarities with what my mom did and what Brian does. And Brian will wear that ring for the rest of her existence. And it's a fond reminder to Brian and I both that we didn't need closure, because we'll always have mom. So again, some of the lessons that I think everybody can take from the life that my mom lived is there is triumph in trial and tribulation. There is happiness to be found in sadness. The universe, God, dictates balance. And where there is struggle and pain and sacrifice, there is tremendous gain. And that's what my mom proved her whole life. That's what my mother proved to all of us. And that's what I hope to carry on for the rest of my life. She's proud of my brothers. She was proud to be my dad's wife. She was proud to be one of 9 siblings. She was proud of everything she stood for, whether other people were or not. And she lived her life on her terms. And even to taking her last breath, my mom had some say in how she went. And she absolutely freaking deserves that. And that's why I wanted to do this episode. To remind everybody, we live in a world that's full of BS and nonsense, negativity, animosity, division. It's not real. It's our choice what we do with the negativity and the nonsense and the BS. It's our choice to live our lives how we see fit. It's our choice to be selfless or selfish. It is our choice to let other people dictate our circumstances or to create them ourselves. My mom emulated the power of choice. She emulated the power of self-belief. And she emulated what to do to serve others, to balance out the sadness in her life. And that is so super powerful. So super powerful. As always on the show, I always ask my guests what each of the components of the seashore represents to them. That's a really fun aspect to what we do. So I'm going to go ahead and answer on behalf of my mom because I know the answers to these questions. Clarity to my mom was the same thing it was to me. It was being able to stand at the shoreline like what you see behind me on the video here and really being understanding of what you see. What matters is what you see. What doesn't matter is what you don't see. Being committed to one wave at a time, one thing at a time. My mom accomplished a million things in a day at the house, but she did it one wave at a time. She was very systematic. She was very pragmatic about things. She was right in that. She could multitask, but you'll notice that she was never trying to catch more than one wave at a time. She was always one wave at a time and was still able to accomplish the task at hand because she understood that there were multiple waves in the day. All mom ever focused on was what she could control. And if she couldn't control it, she figured out a way to put herself in control of it. And that is something that I have proudly taken from her. Even if something is out of my control, if I see a clear path where I can commit to taking some form of control to make an impact, I will. But if I can't, then I won't. If you did something stupid, mom forgave you. If mom did something stupid, she forgave you. LOL. But if she made a mistake, she knew it, she'd move on. And yeah, she remembered every little disagreement that I ever had with her, that my brothers, my dad, she could remember stuff that just, why do you remember that? But she still had compassion for stupidity in actions, for arrogance, for anything. Mom had a level of understanding that was unrivaled. And consistency was what my mother was all about every day. Living your life the way that you want to, inadvertently making it a better life for other people. The amount of people that came to celebrate her at her luncheon was off the charts and expected. She would send Christmas cards to everybody. The UPS guy cried when he knew that my mom had passed and my dad was going through some stuff. The people at the elementary school she hadn't worked at in decades showed up. In some way, shape, or form, my mother made an impact in people's lives more than she ever realized. And as fate would have it, my business partner always says the same thing about me. I make an impact in people's lives so much that I don't even realize it. You know what? Just like my mom, I don't want to. I just want to live my life and be the best version that I can to make the world a better place for other people, to make the world a better place for my wife, for my family, for my nieces and my nephews, for the generations that are coming behind me. I'm proud to be the Lifestyle Lifeguard, and I wouldn't be who I am without the tutelage and the wisdom, the love, and the selfless nature that was my mom. So to anybody who knew her, you all know we were blessed. To anybody who didn't know her, you're blessed because you get to know her oldest, most charming, most good-looking, sexiest of all four boys. And yes, I have her humor. Mom, we love you. Every day without you is still a celebration of all of the life lessons that you taught us. Every day I will continue to live my life the way that you told me to live it, and you would expect me to live it. And though I will miss you in heavenly form, you know, I always told you you were my angel in in human form. And now you get to fulfill that divine purpose in such a unique way. So thanks for being with me today, Mom. Thanks for helping me answer questions. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to share the awesomeness that was the life that you lived. Please continue to look over Dad and the guys. Please continue to be a guiding light for the rest of our family. And please always remember, there will never be any goodbyes. There will never be any regrets. Save us a spot at the shoreline. And we'll see you when we see you. And just so you know, Mom, whether we're on our way to Cape May or anywhere else, we fell in love with you. The world fell in love with you. And the world will continue to fall in love with you through the efforts that we try to put out for the rest of our existence. Thank you for being my mom. Thank you for being my best friend. And thank you for being in the Lifestyle Lifeguard Tower with me now. Until we see each other again, see you when I see you. We'll see everybody next week when we're back at the seashore. We do have our guests lining up. Obviously, we had to make some adjustments with the situation being in Pennsylvania and stuff for Mom. So thank you, everybody, for the patience. I hope you took something from this episode. I hope you learned a little bit about the power of the shorty that was my mom. I hope I was able to express her in a great way and express the life that she lived in a phenomenal way. I hope I did her proud. And I hope you learned a little something about yours truly, because as Chris Salem always says, I'm the most transparent person you're going to come across. I'm unabashed with my opinions, but I believe that everybody deserves something greater than they see in front of them. And that's exactly what my mom would expect me to continue to live my life on the daily with. So we'll see everybody next week at the seashore. Until then, be blessed, be great, believe. Make it a great day, ladies and gentlemen.